Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the United Star. Today we have Sid here from the Stretford Way and Abhishek Iyer, a die-hard Manchester United fan. And we've also got Abhishek Gupta from the United Star itself. And today we're going to talk about something that is very important and is often not spoken enough and is often spoken too much, but we don't get to the crux of what the problem is. We're going to talk about the way this club is run from a managerial perspective, but not on the pitch, off it. So we're talking about the likes of Glazers, Matt Judge, Ed Woodward, and these sort of this holy trinity that's running Man United to the ground, if I may say so. Since Sid is new on the channel, I'm going to let him open and I'm going to just throw it open to him for like a little bit to explain what the problems of the Glazers and Ed Woodward in particular are and why we're protesting.
Thanks, Prashant. First of all, I started watching football in 2014, and that was the same year I started supporting Man United. It was always the first team on my list to support. Um, 2015, I had gone to Old Trafford, and I was amazed. I was amazed by the amount of history the club had, and I left the stadium in tears, saying, "Yes, I have supported such a great club." You guys as fans and me as fans, we understand the importance of the history of Manchester United. I personally feel, and I think many of us fans feel, that this history is going to be overshadowed by what is happening currently at the club. We are in debt. Uh, our main squad, the current squad, there are no investments in that. Money is being taken out. Fans like us, we are not being treated well. And this is why we all have come together to say that we need new owners, and these owners currently they have to leave. The Now coming to Ed Woodward, he is good with deals, but his business, the footballing side, he's not really good at it. Um, if you if you've heard the Fabrizio Romano podcast, Fabrizio Romano said that at the end of July, this I'm quoting him, at the end of July, beginning of August, Manchester United were one step away from signing Jadon Sancho, and that was going to be a club record fee. What happened then? Why did we sign him? Why did it take 8 weeks for us to come to deadline day and miss out on the signing? What happened was that once we agreed all terms with Jadon Sancho and Borussia Dortmund, Manchester United went in and changed the structure of the deal. How do you agree on a fee, then agree the wages of the player, go back in and say, you know what, we accidentally told you this fee, now we are just going to change it a little. And that's what has caused this 8 week stalling of this deal. What happened here is that Ed Woodward publicly came out and said that short term deals are dangerous, and now we need to focus more on long term deals. Exactly a year later, he's gone in and signed Edison Cavani, who's 33 years of age, and he's on Man United wages. Now, nothing against the player, but we were given the dream of a 3 year plan, 3 year plan in which success was going to be guaranteed. After 1 year, this plan is gone to the it's gone. There is no plan anymore because we have just missed out on each and every signing our manager wanted. When Bruno
Right.
came in January, we saw a magical increase in confidence, and we miraculously got third place. The whole team worked hard. Everyone's spirits were lifted. We got third place. We got Champions League. What happened after that? Ole
Right.
Gunnar Solskjaer, as we all know, was promised Jadon Sancho if he got Champions League, if he got a place in the Champions League. Here we are sitting, the deadline has passed, and we still do not have Jadon Sancho at the club.
Right.
Why is this?
Sid, you've raised some very important points, and this boils down to the fact that there is lack of recruitment or almost no recruitment at this football club. Now we have a director of corporations who is lead negotiator in Matt Judge. And I know Vishesh feels very strongly about Matt Judge and what his role is at the club. So I'm going to bring Vishesh in, and he can shed some light on what happened to the deals of like the likes of Haaland, or what happened to the likes of the deals in the end that Dortmund have now come out and spoken about Schlutz, if you, that's the way you pronounce his name, last moment deal. And Vishesh, I'm going to let you about the second piece in the problem, which is Matt Judge.
Rasham, when you look at it, let's break it down, right? The situation with Sancho is very similar with what was going on with Bruno last season. Towards the end of the start, like the end of the transfer window, in the summer transfer window, we were like, Bruno's coming. Yeah, we've seen him at Carrington. Yeah, he's taken a flight. We missed out on him. We got him in Jan. We saw the results. We needed that player. The same thing goes out this time. Sancho was coming. Sancho missed training. Sancho is sick. Sancho is joining. It's just frustrating to see that the manager is not being backed. When you look at it, who were Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's main targets? Upamecano, Sancho, Ake, Grealish. How many of these have we got? None. You want to talk about Cavani coming in? Great player. I think he may do very well at United. But for a player who was a free agent for 2 months, you're telling me you could only sign him on deadline day? And that is what your manager wanted? I mean, you had 2 months to sign him, but you chose deadline day to sign him. I don't agree with a lot of strategies that United have used. If you look at the transfer window, the players we've got are good. Let's not underestimate these players. But the issue is with timing. You do not make all these signings on the last day of the transfer window. And this all boils down to what Patrice Evra said on Sky Sports, right? That there was a time where Alex Ferguson used to go down and talk to players. Or, some other person would go down and talk to players. Now we send lawyers. That's not how football's run. And that is how Matt Judge and Ed Woodward are running this club. It's being run from a very financial point of view, not from a footballing point of view. And it's reaching a point where if you look at reports, it says that Ole is frustrated that they missed out on both Haaland and Sancho after having an agreement with both of them. If you're not going to back your manager, how do you expect to get the results? If you're going to come out, if today you come out, Glazers and Ed come out and tell me very clearly that don't expect anything more than a top 4 finish, that's all we care about, I'll be satisfied with that. But come out and say so. Don't give us expectations, spend 120 million on one transfer window because you missed out on Champions League, and then not reinforce this club at all. I mean, make
Right.
either back the manager, or come out and just say that this is our aim and we don't aim for anything higher. Because how many scapegoats are we gonna have? We had Louis
Right.
Van Gaal, we had Jose Mourinho, and now Ole is being a scapegoat. In fact, I mean, yesterday or in this last week, rumors have come out that if Ole doesn't perform well in the upcoming month, Pochettino's coming in, and Pochettino would be the perfect guy, right? He never blames the people who are on the board. We saw that at Spurs. He does with what he has. But again, he's not someone who aims at trophies. So if this club doesn't care about trophies anymore, please come out and say so. So we don't expect that from you anymore, and we don't get disheartened with the way you play.
Right. Vishesh and Sid have spoken about the two sort of pawns in this empire that the Glazers have built. I'm going to bring Abby in to talk about the Glazers themselves. Before he comes in, I want to list some of the achievements of the Glazers since they've taken over. They've made Man United a debt ridden club, which, as Abby has said, is not inherently bad. But the problem is that that debt has been used to buy the club in the first place and then not invest in the squad. We've paid almost £1 billion in interest since they've come in. They've changed the origin of the club from Manchester to the Cayman Islands for tax purposes. They've floated the company on the New York Stock Exchange in 2012, and now we end up paying dividends to them. Each six Glazers, five brothers and their sister, take $10 million, £10 million each year because they're on Manchester United's payroll. I want to understand what they are doing. And at the end of this, I've listed all this, and there is absolutely no footballing achievement. Abby, my question to you is, since the Glazers have taken over, and of course, since Sir Alex is left, are we a footballing club or are we just a commercial entity that makes money and all of us are just, brand loyal people that buy the merchandise of this club? should we forget about trophies as Vishesh is saying? Because we have a director of corporations, we have a vice president. Where is the director of football? Where is the head negotiator who understands football? So, Abby, all yours.
I'll tell you where they are. They're at City. They are at Man City. They're on the other side of town. And that's what's shambolic about this team, right? And I want to open with saying that, Prasham, you were graceful enough to call them the Holy Trinity. I'd call them the Devil's Trinity. Ed Woodward, Glazers, and Matt Judge. They're the Devil's Trinity. And let me tell you the problem with this club. And I think Sid made a lot of points about the lack of investment in the team, and he did sort of reference Jadon Sancho. That's why I won't talk too much about what's happened this summer. Let me just give you a bit more perspective. I've been supporting Man United since 2002, 2003. So it's been a long time. It's been almost 2 decades now since I've been supporting this club. Let me tell you that since you ended your Prashant, you ended your thing with a question to me, which is, ever since the Glazers have come into the club, what has changed? Let me tell you a couple of things. The Glazers, first up, they were the owners even under Sir Alex Ferguson, and they were the owners for almost the last decade of Sir Alex Ferguson being at the club. Sir Alex left the club in 2013. They came in as owners around 2005, 2006, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Between 2006, this is the weird part, right? Between 2006 to 2013, I can proudly tell you that it was probably one of the most successful eras in global football, right? So I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate. I'm not trying to justify the Glazers, but I'll tell you where the real problem lies. The real problem lies in the fact that we as a club, we didn't evolve or change with the times. When the Glazers came in 2005, we were still financially competitive. When I say financially competitive, what I mean is that, yes, we were never a club who would always go out there and buy the Neymar for 200 million. That was never the ethos of Man United. That was never us. But in 2007, I remember we still went out and we got the world's best players. We went and bought Anderson for 18 million. We bought Nani for 17 million. We bought one of Bayern Munich's best players in Owen Hargreaves for 20 million. We got Carlos Tevez, who was one of the best Premier League strikers at the time. So we were still very good at conducting our business. Of course, the CEO at the time was David Gill, a very different person, a man who bled United, a man who was a one-on-one with Alex Ferguson, and a man who would count Ferguson as an advisor. I think what has fundamentally changed is 2 things. The first thing that's changed is that it's almost now as if Ed Woodward is the advisor to the manager, and it should not be like that. It should be the other way around, right? We saw that with Van Gaal. We're seeing it with Ollie right now. Ollie looks at Ed Woodward as an advisor, and Ollie is nothing but just a sort of a cog in the entire system. But is he a vital cog? That remains to be seen. The second thing that has changed drastically is that football has changed. The global scenario has changed. We still operate as if we're still in 2007, where if we spend 50 million in the transfer market, the competition are spending 80 million. So City spent close to that amount in 2008 when they went and got Robinho, Elano, and so on and so forth. And we wrote them off. But if you look at it from 2008 to today, 2020, it's been 12 years. City today, reflecting, have been on a project. They had a vision in 2008, and look at where they are today. Whereas United, we didn't have a vision, we didn't have a reinvention the way City has them. We own the system. Nothing has changed. The way we do things is the way things are going to be. And so we're going to continue doing things the way we're doing. And we've continued with that philosophy, and look where it's landed us. So those are the 2 fundamental issues I see at this club. And, that's what hurts me the most as a fan, because while Prasham talks about dividends and the likes of the Glazers getting so much in their pockets every year, I'm still telling you, Prasham, that doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me as a fan, because at the end of the day, Prasham, it's business. If you own a club, if you own something, if you buy something, at the very least, you will expect a dividend, which is why in my in my plea to the club, I did mention that, make your money. You deserve to make your money. The Glazers deserve to make their money. They have every right, not deserve, they have every right to put this club under debt, because that's their business model, right? But at the end of the day, where it hurts people like the 3 of us and the 4 of us sitting here is that it's the lack of investment on the pitch. It's the lack of, giving that much towards actually winning, which is where I come in and say that that's where they're getting things wrong and they're not evolving as a football club.
No.
Right.
Abby, let me
Vishesh, you
come
wanted to
in
come
here.
in?
The thing is, if you look at it as a whole, the Glazers have invested. You cannot be like, we didn't go out and bring in Lukaku, we didn't go out and bring in Pogba. That they did spend that money, but again, that wasn't smart investing. I think a lot of these players, Di Maria, Falcao, were just names so that we could get the shirt sales done. So when
But
we talk
Vishesh, that would be down to the manager, I would argue, no?
But that's the point, right? We we've
So this
seen
is
we've seen Louis
so.
Van
Let me
Gaal
just come in here.
we've seen,
One.
we've seen Louis Van Gaal come out and say that he gave a list to Ed Woodward, and that list
Mm-hmm.
was nowhere to be seen. We're seeing the same thing with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He gave a list to Woodward, and they're completely different players. So if you're not going to
So
back the
Vishesh, let me
manager
come in
after
here.
you reach your goal, how is it going to work?
What I'm saying here is what Abby has said is in his piece. What Abby has said is very interesting. There are two names he mentioned, which are institutions in themselves: David Gill and Sir Alex Ferguson. They understand how football worked, and even though the Glazers, who are absolutely useless and call the sport soccer, were at the helm, uh, they yet got the club through because they understand what players to bring in, when to bring them in, and how to use resources well. If you remember, we did sign these likes of Anderson, Nani, etc., etc. But towards the end of Sir Alex's period, from about 2009 onwards, we didn't sign any big money players or big name players apart from Robin van Persie. We were signing bits and pieces players. We did not reinforce that midfield at all. Not we when the last time we won it, Tom cleverly played about 25 games or 30 games in that midfield when we won the Premier League. So we didn't reinforce that midfield at all. So the Glazers' stance on transfers has been very frugal since then. What I want to say, that what Vishesh has said, is that these guys don't understand football at all. These guys don't know what's happening. And I said this in one of our previous videos. I think I said it on the MUSCM Insta Live as well. I think I said it once there. Is that there is a disconnect. There is a disconnect between what the manager wants and what is happening at the transfer negotiation level. Now, this is where I want to bring Sid in. I, as a manager, want XYZ player. In my view, it makes absolutely no sense for the manager not to be involved at all within the conversation when you make such decisions. The manager has to be at the helm of it. He has to know what happens. It can't be that at the end of the season, it's not a child who's giving his Christmas wish list here. Oh, I want these things. It feels like that, and the parents come and say, "Oh, we didn't get this, but replacement, we've got this. If it's okay, you wanted Haaland, but we've got a Haaland at home, and the Haaland at home is a Cavani." So that is what's happening. So, Sid, what's your view on the way we're handling transfers? And I know you have some particular examples that you want to talk about, so feel free to go and talk about them.
So I am absolutely stunned by the way we've conducted ourselves in the transfer window. And I think reports have come out that Dortmund, Sancho, everyone's surprised. Our transfer strategy for this Jadon Sancho deal was that Dortmund would cave in towards the end of the window. Now, if you follow football, you have so many examples in world football. They didn't cave in for Aubameyang, they didn't cave in for Dembele. Then how do you and you know what? We actually dealt with them before when we signed Henrik Mkhitaryan, right? So we know how Dortmund
Yeah.
work, and we have to learn from that. You can't just. So this was actually our strategy. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that this was our strategy. We expected Dortmund to cave in. That is not good business. If so. Sorry. I just lost myself there. Um, James Cooper, multiple times he came out and said that, okay, you know what, if United, he doesn't see United signing a 108 million check, but they have got, backups for Jadon Sancho. Who are the backups? How have we never heard about them? They spent 8 weeks behind this player only for him not to join. Personally, I think Jadon Sancho is never going to join Manchester United because he has been given the impression that he's being undervalued by Manchester United. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think
Sid, you
Jadon
never
Sancho.
thought Jadon Sancho was coming. You were the most optimistic guy during the transfer market.
I was.
The
No,
night the transfer
I think what
market
Sid is
ended
saying
at
that
1 a.m., 2
no,
hours before the window shut, You told me that we are going to get Sancho, and you're saying this
No,
now.
I think
Sid,
Abhi, what
really?
he's saying that he's
seriously,
never going to
seriously.
come now.
He's never going to come
After
now.
this
He's
point,
never
he's
going
going
to
to
come
never
now.
come.
Oh, okay. I take that
Yeah,
back. Apologies. Yeah.
I admit I was hopeful, and you know what? Not hopeful. I knew he was going to come because
True,
you
true,
you
true.
have proof. You
Likewise,
have proof.
likewise.
No,
You
no,
have proof that he was going to
it's
come.
been even come out, like I follow a few other YouTube channels, and it's been very clear that Sancho is always going to come, even the season before as well. We just didn't pay up the money. The season before
Exactly.
we had to pay
Exactly.
90 million. This season we had to pay 120 million. We just didn't cough up the money.
Yeah.
So I totally get the point where you're saying
Yeah.
that he may just think that we undervalue him.
Absolutely. And that's why he's I don't think he's ever going to join. Okay. But if he has to join, it has to be down to what the players and the manager do on the pitch. How is he going to do it? It's like you have given a breadstick to someone and told him, ki, okay, you know what? Make a sculpture out of it. The manager has no tools to get that success. You literally
Yeah.
went from and I don't understand this Cavani deal. I hope he does really well. A few weeks back, Manchester United sent a mail to Phil Brown saying that, okay, you know what, COVID has impacted us heavily and it won't be business as usual. You still go and chuck in exorbitant amount of money to Cavani's agent, 10 million. 10 million.
Does he
They
play
have-
left back?
I know, you know what? I better hope he plays center back. Okay. Because again, we saw that on Sunday. We definitely need a center back. Manchester United came out when
Yeah.
I think essentially, Sid, what you're saying is that we have the money, we don't have the brains.
we have
In a nutshell, we have the money, we don't have the brains.
in a nutshell, we have the
Yeah.
money, we don't
You
have
know-
the brains.
Abhi, we have the money, don't have the brains. I want to throw a couple of more statistics to you. Matt Judge leads a team of 52 scouts. 52 scouts in the last
On fantasy
4
manager?
seasons.
On
Apart,
football manager,
No, and that too from 2014 because Cavani was good in 2014. He's okay
yeah.
now.
go on, Prashant. Yeah.
52 scouts, and in the last 4 years, we've signed every player that has trended on Twitter, or you can watch television and say that this guy is good. This season, we've got Amad Diallo and we've got
Amad Traore and
these two
Pelestri, yeah.
players. Yeah, we've got these two players who are on the other end of the spectrum that absolutely no one knows anything about. Why haven't we been able to scout the likes of maybe like a Laporte?
Yeah.
Even Upamecano, he's the name that keeps flashing on the TV.
Name some
How
bigger
many
names,
do-
man.
ha-
Mahrez, Vardy. Look at the Leicester players, dude. Like, why are we not
Kante.
scouting them? Kante.
Yeah.
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 So this is
Prashant,
my question to you,
let
Abhi.
me get in
What
there.
is wrong fundamentally with the club?
Prashant,
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
Abhishek, go on.
sorry to interrupt out here, but the thing is, there were a lot of people that did come out from our scouts and told Woodward about players
Yeah.
like Mbappe,
Yeah.
so on and
Alfonso
so
Davies
forth.
and
Woodward
Pulisic.
chose not to sign those players. They were offered to United, and we didn't sign them. So it again isn't our scouts that are the issue. I think it's more of
No, but Vishesh, point completely taken, man. But I'll tell you what, the structure is still an issue. See, you're looking at it as primary and end result, right? Primary scouts identified, end result, we didn't buy them. There's so much that happens in between. And that's where process, structures, systems fall into place, right? It's not so easy that a random scout gets a direct line with Ed Woodward, right? He has to go through a process. We've all seen, I hate to bring out the example, we've all watched this movie called Goal, right? Santiago Munez is scouted by this random guy who's in Mexico. You saw, Goal is such a good example of how football works, man. You saw how he got a trial, right? He was like, he called the manager. He's like, I've seen this kid. Can you at least give him a trial? He comes for a trial. He fails miserably, right? Santiago Munez failed his trial so miserably in the movie. It's so accurate, right? And at the end of the day, there is a process. There are 52 scouts, like you said. Do you think all 52 have a direct line with Ed Woodward? No, they don't.